Hey everyone, welcome to Terrortinos. In this episode, we're going to have a really fun debate about the ultimate 80s Christmas movie. You know, kind of instead of like maybe picking some of the obvious choices like A Christmas Story or a National Lampoon Christmas Vacation, which I think would be very logical. You could easily pick those movies as the ultimate Christmas movie from the 80s. But we wanted to kind of think outside of the box and pick something that weren't first considered or regarded as the traditional Christmas films.
We don't do logic.
But like over the years, I think these two movies have become more the Christmas staples that we tend to watch all the time. And I think for a lot of family households, these two movies have become annual Christmas viewing. And if you read the title of this episode, you know what movies we're going to be talking about. It's Gremlins versus Die Hard. And Angel is over here. He's going to be making his case for Gremlins, and I'm going to be making the case for Die Hard. So let's do this thing. Let's find out which of these two films get crowned the ultimate 80s Christmas movie.
Your move, creep.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Flying saucers, which are really, yeah, you got it, time machines. I think a lot about this kind of stuff.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.
Okay, let's start the show. Like really quick, let's start with introduction. If this is the first time hearing this podcast, well, my name is Mike Morales, and I am here with
Angel. Let's get it on, Deli on.
And we are a couple of old friends who have decided to start this podcast, this movie podcast, which is just us revisiting some of the awesome films from the 1980s and 90s, which are the films that we were raised on. And hopefully we kind of bring this old school perspective, this firsthand experience. Hopefully we can add some insight to what was it like to watch these films at the time and give our thoughts on why we think some of these movies have become timeless classics. And I have to say, Gremlins and Die Hard are definitely classics. But the question is, which one of these two is the ultimate 80s Christmas movie? So let's begin. I guess let's begin with Gremlins. This is the 1984 film from Joe Dante, who's a horror genre director who at the time was only known as the guy who directed the classic werewolf movie, The Howling. The movie's also executive produced by Steven Spielberg. This is, of course, under his label Amblin. And
Chris Columbus, who would later become known as the director of Home Alone and a bunch of other movies, Mrs. Doubtfire. This is kind of his first film as a writer. He wrote the screenplay, and he writes a kind of really interesting genre take. This is a Christmas movie splashed with horror, monster horror. Angel, tell us why do you think this is like your favorite Christmas movie? Okay, let me start with I am not the Grinch. I do enjoy a good Christmas movie. I'm just not not just mainstream. I don't particularly. I'm not a big fan of the whole Christmas where they make somebody feel bad, then he feels good. Per se, I enjoy. Most of my background is horror, so if you can get a good little mixture going, and we always would watch this around Christmas. So it wasn't even like I didn't have a choice. To me, it was Christmas, not just because the movie was set in Christmas. We'd always watch it around Christmas. But yeah, I just remember when I watched it as a kid, it scared the living hell out of me.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude, this was the whole turn off the light, run and jump into the bed because there's something going to grab you from under. Yeah, this was it for me, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I saw it when I was that small. Like, I saw it, this was, 84? So I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think my parents saw it as scary. So they let me watch it. But little creatures, they're cute. And they become these little, I guess you would
kind of say reptilian little
little
troublemakers.
yeah.
I mean, they didn't kill anybody not
They
like
tried
shoot or
times.
it was like they were so mischievous that people got hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, they scared the living hell out of me, and they're so small they can get into everything. And I swear they were under my bed, and like I would like cover my head and just try to drown out all the noise because I didn't want to hear them underneath my bed laughing and stuff. But yeah, this was the ultimate movie for me. I just loved it. Even though it scared the hell out of me, I loved it. As growing up, I'd watch it like probably twice a year, and I still watch it around Christmas. I just enjoy it that much.
Yeah, I think the first half of the movie really kind of plays on the kind of traditional Christmas feeling. It kind of reminds me of a Frank Capra type of movie. It's a Wonderful Life comes to mind, and then it really does this kind of tonal shift at the second part of the movie where it becomes this monster movies from the 50s or 60s. You know, it becomes like kind of the town is invaded by these creatures, and I think that's when it really comes alive. I think it really becomes a really fun movie. But what's your thoughts on kind of rewatching the film?
I'd say that I didn't pick up on anything newer. I noticed the flow more. Basically, the whole like the beginning to end, the whole circle, the way it came all the way around. But I guess I'd say I got more of the interacting between the characters. Like in the beginning, when I was watching as a kid, it was just waiting for the creatures. You know what I mean? That was the big thing. Then they'd come out, and then I'd watch them kind of try to battle them back. But this time, it was kind of the way, like it was like small town life with the backdrop with Christmas. But then they had kind of problems that people have in every facet of, like, I'd say the country. So big city, rural, they just want to make a living, find somebody that they enjoy spending time with, be secure. Like you got the dad that's constantly on the road. He's never around. He's trying to make his dream of being an inventor.
Right.
Even though it's kind of costing his family time with him, and he has all his little inventions around, like constantly with trying to, they can't even crack an egg. They have to use his egg cracking machine and they could use a regular juicer. It's got to be his juicer. And the best thing is, it's like he puts his name on everything. So it's not just the whatever. It's the, God, what's his last name? Peltzer. It's like the Peltzer buddy or the Peltzer shaving buddy. And it's Peltzer this, Peltzer. So it's not even just, it's not even like, it's almost like not just a lack of creativity. I think it's telling you that he kind of wants to be famous in his own right for making his inventions. And it's like he gives his kid an animal that he doesn't know if it's what it's like at all, but it's just like, hey, I got you something so that I can mark it off my list. Not that he's a bad parent, but it's just, I think he's more interested in certain parts of his life than, I don't know. Maybe I went on a tangent.
No, it's interesting because I do like the idea that he is an inventor in the movie. There's something about being an inventor in the 80s that really holds a great kind of like a dream. I love the inventions in Goonies. There was the kid inventor. It was a kind of a thing in the 80s, like everyone was like obsessed with the inventor idea. And here's a guy who is like struggling. He wants to be his own man. But he's not able to kind of pick that, the pet rock. He's looking for his pet rock, or he's looking for the Rubik's Cube or something that he can sell to the masses. And now he sees this mogwai animal, and I think he even says to his son, like, "Hey, maybe we could sell this creature. Maybe they could be like
the pet of the future."
Yeah. So he's always thinking in that way, and I don't know. There's something about that I kind of always loved about this idea of like. This striving for making a successful business.
But I think you're right, though. It's kind of like in the 80s, early 90s, there was always the feeling that we're on the up here. You know what I mean? There's more to find and create than we've already done. It's like, just get an idea, bring it, work hard, and your dreams can come true.
Yeah, we're always kind of waiting for that jetpack. That was kind of the constant joke. And so we were always kind of waiting for someone to invent something to really better our lives. And yeah, I think that was just very much in the zeitgeist of the 80s and 90s. And it's like kind of a forgotten type of thing now. Inventors are looked down upon now because they have become more greedy than ever.
I remember the poor man I didn't even have an idea, but I remember the poor man patent. Where you'd mail your idea to yourself, remember? And then you get the postmark.
Yeah.
And you'd freeze it, but you could never open it because that seal was kind of like to prove that you beat somebody to that idea or whatever.
Yeah, it's always the idea of like you need to protect your own creation and be creative and come with your own ideas and stuff like that. So I think this movie really kind of plays with that old school kind of nostalgia, but that second half really is spectacular when it goes to this. I mean, if you think about it, it is a dark horror movie.
Yeah, and it's funny, they even have antagonists in the beginning, like I don't know her actual name, so I'm gonna date myself. The lady that played Flo, Mel's Diner, where she's the real mean lady in the bank. Right. I like the fact that it was a small town bank, right? So it's not a huge bank, but it's a bank. Everybody's standing in line. You know what I mean? I know it's the time though too. It's in the 80s, so they didn't have ATMs and stuff.
Yeah,
but it just reminded you of a time when things were slower and you did things in person,
and everyone knew each other in that neighborhood or in the town.
Even when the cop starts to give the guy selling the trees a hard time about donating one for the boys, and then the guy turns around, he's like, I paid for mine, Frank, and you know what I mean? So it's like, he's a cop, and he's kind of like, yeah, you shouldn't get a free. I know you're not getting a free Christmas tree out of this one.
Let's talk about director Joe Dante, because you have been a fan of his. You love his werewolf movie, The Howling. He kind of is this, in the 80s is his best years as a director. He went on to do a ton of classic films, but I mean, I think he will be always remembered as the guy who directed Gremlins. What's your thoughts on how this movie is directed and how this kind of blends some of these genres together?
I like that what he does is he understands not just about the way things are shot, but some things in movies, it's almost like what you don't show, what you hear off to the side. Like there's a part where the gremlin escapes into the air duct. Okay, so most movies like, oh, you see the scratch marks, but you also hear the scratching of him trying to crawl through an air duct made out of metal, and you hear his claws, like scraping, and it's getting you can hear the distance in the claw marks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then in The Howling, I don't know if it was a budget thing. It was kind of like that too. It was kind of like the guys, like when they were transforming, instead of showing the transformation, which maybe was subpar or he thought wasn't going to be as scary, he would show the person's face and you would hear the transformation going on. And then it was up to the actor, or in this case, it was either Dee Wallace or the guy playing the husband. Mm-hmm. You'd have to see their facial expressions change and coinciding with the bone cracking sounds. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it was. I enjoy the fact that he doesn't just have to shove it all in your face and say, "Hey, look at this, look at this, look at this." You know what I mean? He hits all the senses.
Yeah, he kind of understands the visuals and also the audio aspect of cinema and how they both, they work together, and I think what I got from rewatching it recently is just how great the animatronics in this film is. I mean, they're actually superb. They hold up pretty well in this movie.
And it's because for the most part they're not real. Mm-hmm. So when they do the whole scene at the bar is the only time you see their feet moving.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what they do is they cut the top. So you know what I mean? So they're smart. They can't show top and bottom. So all of a sudden they're running around and they cut to just like a floor shot of all the legs dancing and moving and stuff to make it more I just CGI wasn't around for it, but I'm glad it wasn't, because that would have just been horrible. I like that he had to work for it.
Yeah, I think this actually makes a good argument about how you don't need CGI to make some of this stuff work. I mean, I think that's how good the animatronics is. I should point out the special effects artist in this movie is a guy named Chris Wallace, who kind of this was his kind of big break, although he worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he won an Oscar after this movie for The Fly. And he's actually, the only reason I know his name is because I looked him up after rewatching the movie, because I was so impressed by the work of the film, the special effects, Gizmo and Stripe, and how they look and how they move. It was so really well done, and I think, I was really amazed at how much they were able to pull it off. I mean, there was one scene where Stripe is riding a bicycle, and I go, that has to be on the set. And and now we kind of take those things for granted because we go, oh, that must have been done in the computer. But all this stuff has to have been done physically, and it's done superbly in this movie.
Okay, I'm going to burst your bubble. What they did was they made a 10 scale tricycle. It's huge. It was a real human body in it.
Yeah,
human body in it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I like I think I saw a couple of behind the scenes footage of this movie, and they did use some really big puppets for some of the close up scenes for Gizmo's close ups, because they couldn't get.
Yeah, because when you look at the eyes, they blinked, they moved around. The lips moved, you know what I mean? It wasn't just a wooden puppet. They had to get pretty detailed on those things.
I also like his voice. Let's talk about Gizmo's voice, which was done by a famous comedian.
Wait, real quick on when you were talking about, and you know what? Maybe that's what I appreciated the last time I watched it, when you were talking about the characters all the gremlins moving around, was how hard it would be to set those shots up.
Oh yeah, man!
Like a fake tree, and then because they had it in the tree, so there had to be a guy with the hand up a puppet.
Yeah.
So to blend him in, or when they're all sitting on the floor playing the video games, the new Gremlins.
Yeah, and
so you had a fake floor, you had a bunch of guys like chest to chest with their hands in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all the rigging for that thing had to be insane.
Well, like the scene you were mentioning earlier, that bar scene, which is filled with gremlins, and I go, man, must have been a nightmare to shoot, because all these, these puppets kind of break down every once in a while, and they would stop production for hours, and this must have been hell. And it's probably one of the best scenes in the movie, because you get to see every individual gremlin and their different type of characters. And there's a kind of a woman gremlin. There's like a gremlin with a ski mask. There's
the flasher gremlin.
There's a flasher. I mean, and it's all kind of funny. It feels like kind of a Looney Tunes skit, like something from straight out of Bugs Bunny or something, which I think Joe Dante was a huge fan of, and that's why it's like it was done by Warner Brothers, and so it feels like it's in that family of Looney Tunes and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's an extremely funny movie in that sense.
And I always remember seeing Jim Henson photographs of, like, in between the shoots. They always used to have these photographs where they would show you basically what it was like on set during either his movies or just Sesame Street. And you'd have these characters like on a little street or whatever talking to each other. But then you would see the boards and you would see how the people are basically laying on top of each other to try to get their arms up to articulate. And I was like, holy crap, either you can't not love it. They don't pay people enough to breathe each other's breath and be halfway on top of each other for hours at a time. You know what I mean? There's no pay scale for that. Yeah. You love it, and that's why you do it.
It's a passion for these guys, and I think the way they do these scenes with these puppeteers, they have to use monitors to see what they're doing. I mean, they can't really see what they're doing.
Yeah, you can't see nothing. Yeah, you're 100% right. You're in the dark all the way.
And it's fantastic that they were able to like pull this off. I mean, it's a amazing piece of kind of puppetry that this movie really, I think that's really surprising. But let's get into like Gizmo's voice, because Gizmo's voice is done by a famous comedian. This is probably, a lot of people might know this and maybe they not know this, but this was Howie Mandel, the comedian. He does the Gizmo's voice, and I think he brings a really sweetness to the character with his interpretation of this alien creature, or strange.
I did not know he did the voice.
Yeah, he was recommended by the guy who did Stripe, a guy named Frank Walker, who's kind of a veteran voice artist, and Howie Mandel wasn't known as a kind of voice guy. He was only known as the comedian, but he did voices in his stand-up routine.
Yeah, his skits, yeah. And now it totally sounds like him.
And so he did that for Gizmo, and then eventually he went on to do Bobby's World, was it, like another cartoon?
Yeah.
And so it's and he mentions, Howie Mandel mentions that it's almost the same voice. It's Gizmo, Bobby's World. It's the same. He has like one little voice that he does, but it's really cool. I mean, it's like he brings this kind of cuteness to Gizmo. I mean, and Gizmo has become so iconic now, and I kind of remember him, the toy that came out afterwards, which like everyone had to get after this movie was released.
Did the toy talk?
I don't.
Because I remember the toy. I remember him moving his head and blinking.
Oh, really?
But almost like one of those dogs where you put the battery and they bark and they just take a couple steps. The old school toy. But so I remember him sitting and turning it and blinking, but I don't remember him talking.
I remember a different toy. I remember the plush toy that everyone had to get.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about the one that was like hard chest because you had to put batteries in it.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I mean, that's kind of like the Teddy Ruxpin type of toy. Yeah. I mean, there was like, I mean, it was a big deal to get, Gizmo, the toy, or the plush doll or whatever. Also, I guess, the Gremlins were also a great character design too. But I don't know if they were available for toys, but yeah, it was pretty popular back then.
You know what I was just thinking too, and I had to look up where you were talking. When you said Frank Welker, it triggered in my head as Optimus Prime, right?
I think so. Or he did a whole bunch of cartoons.
And that he also did the Predator sound. Like he's credited with inventing the Predator sound, like the whole, like the gurgle and the pops. I want to say that I saw like a little YouTube clip of him, and they were asking him how he figured it out or something. But I definitely know he was Transformers.
I think he was a Transformer. But I think it was the other guy for Optimus Prime. Yeah, no, wasn't that Peter Cullen? Peter Cullen, who did the Optimus Prime.
Is that what he is? He's sound or not Shockwave. Damn, I'm trying to see. It's not giving his. Oh, he's Megatron.
Megatron.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Megatron, yeah.
Megatron, Galvatron. Oh.
Yes.
We got to do an episode on the cartoon Transformers. I'm just saying that, dude, that movie changed my mind. Or changed my life.
So let's talk a little bit about the cast. I mean, we got Zach Galligan, who's the main character, and who is kind of a little bit he's okay in the movie. He's not great, but I think the real breakout of the movie is Phoebe Cates, right?
The 80s heartthrob.
It's funny because she's only really did 3-4 movies in the 80s, but yet she became like kind of the.
And one of them was Gremlins too.
Yeah, but she became like kind of the next door.
Yeah, but that was not for. That was for
Fast Times.
Fast Times, yeah.
And there was also a movie called Private Lessons, I think it was, where it was kind of like a knockoff of Animal House and Porky's or something like that. The very few films that she did in the 80s and 90s, she really kind of had this impression with this generation.
Yeah, she did, for sure. She was kind of like Girl Next Door, but super hot. Like everybody's 80s dream girl kind of thing.
She's kind of like this Gen X generations of Marianne from Gilligan's Island.
Mm. Yeah, wholesome, but yeah. I see it. She's cute.
What's your thoughts on the cast? I think the cast is pretty solid in this film.
The cast is great. The drunk guy that's always screaming about the Gremlins.
Yeah, Dick Miller, right? Dick Miller, Mr. Futterman, Futterman.
He's good. They sneak in Corey Feldman.
Yeah, Corey Feldman. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's great. Dick, and also Dick Miller is kind of like a regular of Joe Dante's. I think he's been in most of his work, his films. But I really like, when I was watching the movie, I really liked the mother, Frances Lee McCain, who I guess she was in. I'm not sure where she's from, but she was awesome in this movie. And there's there's that scene where she has to take on all the gremlins and
in the kitchen. Yeah, she's fighting them all.
And she's a badass in that scene, and she actually takes out more gremlins than anybody else when you think about it. And it's horrible. I mean, she is like. That's gruesome. That scene. She throws one in the blender. She throws one in the microwave. She stabs one in the heart.
If you count, I think she's got the most kills.
Yeah, it has to be. She's like killing machine.
And it's funny because he takes him over to the neighbors and says, "Can you keep an eye on my mom?"
Yeah, she might kill
my mom. Right?
She might kill more. That's what.
No, I would keep her with me, man. And like every time I saw one, I tell my mom to go kill it.
All right, so what's your feelings about Gremlins as a Christmas movie? Because
overall, I think I love Gremlins because you can almost watch it anytime.
It's true.
It doesn't have to be during Christmas. It doesn't have to be when you're in the mood for a scary movie or a funny movie. It kind of hits so many things, as well as movies when you're like, not now, but back in the day when we were younger. You turn on the TV and you were stuck with what was on. You didn't choose. I mean, you could put in a videotape or a DVD, but it was kind of like what's playing. Now you just stream everything and you choose. But if you turn the TV on and that was on, you were kind of done. You could just sit there and watch it. It was always a good watch.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a really fun Christmas movie, but I think my only argument would be that I think when people think about this movie, they really only think about it as the horror aspects to it or the monster aspects to the movie. But it is it's undeniable that it is kind of set during Christmas, and Christmas does play an important part in the movie.
Especially when Phoebe Cates starts going into her monologue about how everybody loves Christmas. You say you don't like Thanksgiving and nobody cares, but you don't like Christmas, and all of a sudden something's wrong with you.
And then she tells about that story about her father, right?
Oh, something that smelled from that was a horrible story. You know what I mean? If you were a kid, that part could scar you, but I think they played on most kids kind of zoning out for that whole speech, but
it's a funny moment because it becomes this kind of B schlock horror speech where well, in the fun way though. I mean,
and then it even turns into the running gag because remember they were just about to be overran. And she stops and she starts to continue the story. And he's like, "Come on, we gotta go." Like, she's going to stop and tell the story again. So it's like a running gag, but it's funny.
That's a good. Yeah, I think that's maybe that could be a possible reason why this maybe takes Die Hard. But I got it. Let's move into Die Hard now because I think I got the ultimate. I think this movie is the ultimate 80s.
Yeah, just because I chose Gremlins, it's not like I hate like my brother. It's like. What do you like? Do you like, what is it? His biggest thing in the whole world is Gladiator or the one with Mel Gibson.
Oh, Braveheart.
Braveheart. You can't like both.
Oh.
And I'm like, it's like you're one fan or the other. It's like the Beatles or Elvis. You know what I mean? So it's like, nah. It's like, on this one, it's not that I don't like Die Hard. I love Die Hard. It's just for my ultimate Christmas movie, I would have chose Gremlins over Die Hard.
Well, yes, and I think you're right. I mean, I wouldn't. I agree in the same way that I don't. It's not that I prefer Die Hard over Gremlins. I think for my taste, I'm more of an action guy. I kind of grew up loving action, and Die Hard was just that movie that became that kind of staple in my household that we would watch all the time. People have been talking about how there's been this discussion online about if Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not. And you know what? It is. It's really, I mean, I think
100%.
I think it has the qualities of a good Christmas movie. And really it's just that it's a movie that it's so fun that the whole family can enjoy. And like I said, if your family is like mine's, then you grew up loving action movies. And, my father was a big, huge, action movie guy, and I think the action genre was the thing that my siblings and myself kind of all share, and we had this thing in common with action movies that we kind of just gravitated towards, and we wanted to like always put action movies on. And Die Hard, because it was also set in Christmas, became that thing, and also because it was one of those movies that would constantly play throughout the year on cable. And if it seemed like it really had this second life on cable and also VHS. And I think that's maybe the reason why you see this movie emerging as a kind of a Christmas movie, because I think so many families are watching it as their preferred Christmas movie, and also it's immensely entertaining. I didn't realize how funny it is after, watching it recently. It's a really funny movie.
Yeah, it's very well written. There's a lot of little, like you said, there's a little innuendos in it, little side jokes. But I know what you're saying about the action. It's kind of like some people, you got to be in the mood for a comedy or the mood for a drama. But if you just throw on like a good little chase 'em fighting flick, little action, nobody really has a problem with that. Everybody can kind of agree. It's one of those, like, it's a good enough movie on most aspects where everybody would agree. Like, if you have 5 people trying to vote for a movie, while they're voting and fighting, you could just put it on, and pretty soon everybody stops and they're starting to watch the movie. Yeah. They didn't realize their votes were already made.
Yeah, and I think because I think it really kind of is making a satirical comment on some of the outrageousness that you get from those action movies from the 80s. I mean, I think it borders on satire a little bit, and I think it really takes like these slight jabs at guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, maybe even Chuck Norris, maybe. Their idea of action star is almost like this cartoonish character or like a superhero character. And Schwarzenegger is, in most of his early films, he is playing a killing machine. And particularly in Terminator, he is, he appears to be impervious to bullets and knife fights and stuff like that. And the same goes to Stallone. He is particularly in the movie Cobra, where he's playing a cop like no other. He's playing like Dirty Harry to the 25th power. There's a famous kind of line in that movie where he goes, "You're the disease and I'm the cure." And I think John McClane, or the way Bruce Willis plays him, is very much a different cop. He's playing the vulnerable action star who bleeds and who is, who bruises easily and has broken bones, and he has no shoes, so like he's walking through glass, he's going to bleed a lot, And what I really love about this type of action hero is that he's a guy who is pretty normal. He's a guy who's in a broken relationship with his wife. He's on the verge of divorce. He's kind of this sad sack character, and then he finds himself like stuck in this kind of terrorist or hostage situation where Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber is like this really great villain, one of the iconic film villains of the 80s and 90s. And he's not only matching wits with him, but he's also trying to one up each other. And it's a fun movie that way. The way they kind of work the action around his the way he kind of tries to save the day. I think the movie, I think Die Hard wants it both ways. It wants to be kind of this cartoonish and over the top action, but it also is grounded in reality when it comes to the characters and their motives. And somehow the film succeeds in that sense. I think it's able to toe that line, and it's able to find that right balance between thrilling action scenes and some of these great moments where he's talking to Al, or he's talking about how he's never going to see his wife again, or if I don't make it, tell my wife I loved her, But yeah, I mean, I love the movie. It's something that I constantly would watch. It's directed by John McTiernan, who is this one of this great kind of action filmmakers of the 80s and 90s. Up to this point, he only directed Predator, and then he came up with this movie. And I think he kind of creates a kind of serious action movie, but for kind of the action movies that fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger will love, or Stallone will love. And it's a fun thrill ride, this whole movie.
Okay, first, let's start with one thing. Let it be known from now on that Cobra is off limits from now on. It's one of the greatest movies ever made.
I think it is.
I know what you're saying, though.
It's meant to be kind of that cult.
Yeah, almost a spoof.
Right.
Yeah, like 100 shots at. Yeah, like, dude, we could do a whole episode on Cobra where, like, I'm gonna blow this whole place up. Go ahead, I don't shop here. You know what I mean? It's one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. But it's funny because you mentioned how it was Predator and then Die Hard. So it's kind of crazy that you went, like, you made the greatest movie ever, maybe, in my opinion, Predator. Mm-hmm. Then you go down to Die Hard. No, just kidding.
Well, John McTiernan is kind of he's an overlooked director. He has this kind of controversial kind of career at the end of, like in 2000s, he had to go to jail for wiretapping or something. He hired a shady private eye to wiretap his producer, and he has this kind of really quick scandal where he had to spend some time in jail. But his movies are awesome,
Oh yeah.
And I think with Predator, he kind of, like Die Hard, he kind of brings a sense of realness to the sci-fi stuff. Like Predator is, on paper, supposed to be kind of this wacky kind of alien flick where Schwarzenegger is fighting this ultimate, space invader hunter. And it works because there's a reality to it. There's like, he creates this world where it makes sense. And it's fun. And I think the same way with Die Hard, he based this action-filled roller coaster ride around this really solid character, John McClane, who is someone who's just like having a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with him almost like doing like the worst part of a chore. You know what I mean? Like this wasn't his first choice to go for the holidays, and it's like he's just gonna try to go in and make the best out of a situation. But what I love about the film though is like it's like he gets there, he gets the limo picks him up, and it's kind of like it's not only is it something that he wouldn't choose to be at, it's also a setting he's not comfortable with. He's not a limo fancy party kind of guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is just like a meat and potatoes kind of dude.
Right.
And he's a corporate.
Yeah, his wife is actually more successful than he is, and he's having a hard time to deal with that. And they're on the verge of a breakup. And are they going to save their marriage? And then this kind of hostage situation comes, and then he gets a chance to really prove his love to his wife at the end. I mean, that's what makes the whole kind of movie a really heartwarming film. That they get together at the end. They kind of we get the idea that their marriage is saved. But I was gonna say, and I like the way they do it, because if you just put him in a room with like 30 terrorists, it's almost too unbelievable. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But you put him in a room by himself. 30 terrorists are there. They don't know he's there. They're spread out throughout the building. He kind of has the upper hand. He can go through it and methodically try to work his way, to where he needs to be to, get the upper hand. I like that aspect. So I like that, like, it takes, 3 or 4 guys to go down before they even know there's a guy taking people out. You know what I mean? I like that setup. I like that it's as realistic as you can get with one guy against like 30 terrorists in a building.
Yeah. Even the action scenes where it's like brutal action scenes, like he's hitting people and he's punching people, and then he's getting knocked off, he's getting knocked out, and he's getting bruised and he's getting bloodied. I mean, the movie starts with him with a white shirt, a white
white beater,
and then it ends with a black shirt because it's all that mud and all that dirt he's been, roaming through, shafts, air-conditioned ducts or whatever, and he's so dirty, and I think what makes this character so lovable. He's like a real dude,
and like you said, with the whole changing, like his garb getting dirtier as the movie goes on, it keeps it more grounded, more realistic. Like his feet are all cut up from everybody knows the glass. He's got them wrapped. One of the first things he does is when he takes the guy out, he tries to switch shoes. And he's like the only 6'8" guy with this like small girly feet. So it's kind of like it's like in a movie where they're in a building and it's like they're hiding from somebody and it's been like 3 days. It's kind of like you're like, how do they go into the bathroom? You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those things where there are questions in your head, but you can't put that. Nobody wants to see him in the movie, but it wasn't just like he kept running around. He actually was like, man, you know what? I'm going to try to get some shoes. Mm-hmm. But like in the same aspect, I like what he was. I think there's somebody that he's hanging, and he's like, and Bruce is a good actor. He really is. But I want to say he's either hanging or something, and he's like putting all his weight, and he's just like, he keeps like, or I think he's got somebody maybe in the headlock or something, and he's just beating on him, and it's kind of like one of those all you got like moments, like
yeah.
It wasn't like a Schwarzenegger movie where it's like I'm going to hit him once in the temple, and then he's going to fall to a knee, and then I'm going to kick him on the inside of his thigh, and he's going to, it wasn't like a choreographed. It was like a brutal outside of a bar, 2 guys, and you're just going to keep hitting this guy until he stops moving.
Yeah, it's a fight to the death. It's like definitely a fight to the death where if I stop punching, he's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. I think this is one of the most iconic movie villains that came out of the 80s. And this is kind of our first introduction to Alan Rickman. And, we now love him as, the Harry Potter guy. He's also in many movies after this. He is such a great breakout performance by this guy as this really smart, ruthless thief or terrorist or bad guy.
Yeah, like he's an actual mastermind, not just like a guy that got a bunch of kids together and said, "Hey, let's go rob a bank." It's like he's got the plan.
Yeah, and he breaks the mold. I mean, I think villains back then were kind of just dumb. They're kind of just there to be shot at or to punch at, but no, he's a guy who they're mostly like jokes too. Yeah, and they were just like big living jokes of like the bad guy. Yeah, and what Alec Rickman does here, he kind of brings a certain gravitas to the character, and his performance is so great that he kind of changes that kind of mold. I mean, this there's no surprise that this movie Die Hard was by the cinematographer Jan de Bont, and Jan de Bont would later direct Speed. And Dennis Hopper in Speed is basically doing an Alan Rickman kind of performance. He is kind of another mastermind who is also ruthless and also very smart. Die Hard kind of spawned this kind of action film where it was Die Hard on the bus, it was Die Hard on a train, it was Die Hard on a boat. It started.
It's like everybody wanted that winning recipe.
Yeah. And it was always about like the normal cop or simple hero who's trying to overcome like very intelligent villain.
Yeah, and I love not just the evolution of Alan's role, but I like the fact that his writing was well for him. Like when he gets caught, kind of, and instead of just try to go at it with Bruce Willis, he pretends to be the guy from the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He switches his voice to just an American voice, and it's like you expected him to just like have a shootout and run or whatever, but it's just like this guy's smart. You know what I mean? He's why show your cards when
and it's so brilliant because we're waiting for this moment where they're going to meet for the first time.
Yeah, and like head to head.
And he does a 160 where he goes, "Oh my God, it's you." Oh my God, you're one of them, you know. And it's like, where, and like, I'm like, where is this going? And then we find out that he's actually playing, you know, he's deceiving him. You know, so brilliantly. It's like a great part, a great point in the movie where,
it's just it makes that character so much more devious. It's like, shit, dude. And it's not like an honor thing. Like, hey, I'm the bad guy. It's like, dude, I'm gonna keep moving. I'm smart enough to keep one step ahead. This is so good.
When I was recently rewatching the movie, the one thing I maybe didn't realize how good he was Reginald Van Johnson as Al. He is fucking phenomenal in this movie. Yeah. And I know he was good before, but he's actually doing really great stuff. And I think
he's not in there, but he's helping Bruce Willis out.
And he's like, you know, you stay in there, man. Where are you staying there? You know, he's like, he really is like the ultimate best friend. But I think sometimes we confuse him as the guy from Family Matters, right? He's the dad from Family Matters, where he's also playing a cop. But in this movie, he is I was blown away about how good he was and how well he plays that character.
Yeah, he's kind of almost like a living, I almost want to say like, you know, the angel on your shoulder or the motivation that keeps you going. He's kind of like a human embodiment of that.
He's a little bit like Jiminy Cricket. Yeah,
Jiminy Cricket. Yeah.
He's also a guy. You know, they could have easily made that character very stupid, but he's actually the smartest cop on the ground.
Yeah, and they do that on purpose too, because they could have SWAT teams and FBI guys and all these genius guys. Like, these guys went to school to combat terrorism, and it's like, dude, you guys are so busy doing that, you don't even realize like they're gonna shoot out the lights. You know what I mean? It's like,
yep.
You guys are so far up, your heads are so far up your ass, you're not seeing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great, and I love the fact that he tells a story about how he shot a kid. And it comes and it's not just there to like it's not just there to give him a little bit of dimension. It comes back when he shoots the bad guy at the end. And I'm going, oh, what a great kind of redemption story, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. I love the whole idea that nothing in this movie is there to just because. I mean, there's a reason for every.
Totally forgot about the story and the whole shooting at the end. Yeah, it's kind of like he helped Bruce fight his demons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, in his history, and then without knowing it, he went full circle and did it for himself too.
Yeah,
but this movie, this movie's king of the one-liners, like especially with him, his intro into the movie with the "Welcome to the party, pal." You know what I mean? He's gonna need him later on in the movie, but that's how he intros himself to.
Yeah, I mean the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker is probably the most iconic line in this particular genre, and that only comes up because they were really talking about how they think he's a cowboy, you know. I remember like when Hans is talking to John McClane, and he's like, "Are you just another American who saw too many movies as a child? Yeah. You know, you're an orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne and Rambo. You know." And he goes, well, I always was partial to Roy Rogers myself. So like he always has these great comebacks. He has these really great one-liners where. I guess because Bruce Willis was on a sitcom that, you know, during that time, and we know that he was able, or they know that he was able to pull off this really kind of funny bits.
Yeah, comedy was that's his first genre I ever saw him in.
Yeah. You know, he's like you said, he's a good actor. It's unfortunate, like nowadays, he's really doing these really shitty movies. These really bad.
Dude, I just saw that one where he was like stuck in the snow. And like a future snow thing, and they had like a virus thing. It's like, oh man,
and he's like, he doesn't.
That's a long way from 12 Monkeys, dude.
Yeah, he doesn't. It seems like he doesn't care anymore. I
think he's got a lot of alimony or something.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I just wish that he kind of goes back to doing what Die Hard, you know, promise us with that he
come out to the coast, we'll have a couple of drinks.
Yeah, so Die Hard, again, like just to wrap it up, I mean, I think it's one of the great Christmas movies, only because it has that great feeling at the end. Everyone kind of wins. The hero is able to overcome the villain. You got a great villain. You got great action scenes. It's fun. It's funny. I just gotta say that again. That this movie is very, very funny and it's very clever. And I think that's the thing I found when I rewatched it again, how clever and how funny the movie really is.
Yeah, and it's funny because whenever you're right, but I don't ever know who gets that credit. Is it the writer? Is it the actors? Because you can write it down and it's hilarious, but the delivery can totally kill it. So to me, it's always like you got to find that special writing, and you got to get the actual character that's able to pull it off. You know what I mean?
I would,
because either one by themselves, you're stuck.
Well, I would say it's a combination of everybody. I mean, definitely Bruce Willis is able to deliver those comic one-liner lines, those awesome lines, but the screenplay has to be there. Really has to be really solid. I mean, the director also plays a part of this, and I only say that because there's some really great characters in the film that are immensely funny. Argyle as a limousine driver, he's not just there as a comic relief. He is also plays a part in the movie, and Ellis, who is the sleazy executive guy who can make deals. He's the one who kind of tries to rat out John.
He's like the greasy John Ritter looking guy.
Yeah. He like that character is fucking hilarious. It's hilarious how great that character is. So that has to be the screenplay, which was written by Jeb Stewart, but I think they brought in Stephen E. D'Souza to punch up some of the comedy bits, and I think he did a really great job with it. I mean, I think all the characters in this film are just tremendously clever, and I think they don't. The thing is, I think a lot of action films, particularly in early 80s, they really dumbed it down, and they really took audiences for granted. This movie doesn't do that. This movie kind of treats the audience with some respect, and we're not going to dumb down some things because this is an action movie, and there's a big explosion at the end where the top of the tower explodes. No, this is we're gonna have.
We should note that was actually 20th Century Fox.
Yeah,
they use that where they filmed
when they're one of their buildings. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then also the building plays a major part of that. It's also almost a character in the movie because the way it looks, the way it's like this, granite, cold, gray, marble. It's it reminds me of the 80s.
Yeah, and it's funny too, and I didn't even notice it till I was looking at the cover. Was that it stands out? It's like its only silhouette building. You know what I mean? So it's even like alone. It's not even like it's not like up around and a bunch of other sky rises, I guess you'd say, or high rises. Mm-hmm. Like it's just by itself.
Yeah. It's like a silhouette. It has that great silhouette.
Yeah. So it's almost like more like I don't know. I don't think they did it on purpose, but it's kind of like it was him by himself. It's the building by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of an iconic image of that tower. Yeah. So just to wrap it up, I mean, I think Die Hard, it ultimately is one of my favorite Christmas movies, and it's something that I always go to if I don't know what to watch during Christmas. Die Hard is like the perfect choice for me. It's something I would just put on, or it's probably already playing in many as we speak right now. It's probably playing on cable, but it's like it's just because it's really fun and it's just an action classic.
And it always seems like you could put that on and then go do Christmas stuff. Yeah. Like if you're decorating your tree, you know what I mean? Just have that stuff on in the background.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I agree. It is an amazing Christmas movie.
Well, it's hard to really pinpoint which one's going to win this, but I think let's just give it a tie. I think because I think you bring out some really great points about Gremlins and how Gremlins is fun, and it really it is kind of like a great kind of family friendly kind of horror movie. And although it might scare the youngins,
yeah, I was going to say just if you're going to show your kids and between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
Just watch them while they're watching it, just to make sure it doesn't go too scary.
And Die Hard is definitely for the, more older teenagers, and you drink some eggnog and, have a blast at night. Well, maybe Christmas Eve or something. But, both movies serve its purpose. I think it's both kind of a fun movies to watch during Christmas. It's just, there's no...
for sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening to Terrortinos. We just had a really fun the discussion about these two movies. And, I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, please subscribe to us. Thank you for listening to us. And we're going to have future episodes where we're going to talk about more 80s and 90s movies. Angel, you want to say something?
Yes, to our one fan in Mexico, I'd like to say gracias. We appreciate. We're gonna do more Spanish movies for you. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, there you go. Yes, so if you just stumbled onto us, please tell your friends and subscribe to us. And
we want to be your favorite mistake.
There you go. Thank you for listening to Terrortinos. We'll be back with a new episode very soon.